What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in CoD World War II. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the M1941 Johnson. First up, as always, let's have a look at some of the real life stats. The first thing to keep in mind is even though the Johnson in Call of Duty World War II is in the rifle category, we are actually using the LMG model of the Johnson. There was also a rifle model, but that was a semi-automatic. It looked completely different than this. The quote-unquote rifle that we're using in CoD World War II is in fact an LMG. This is an American LMG that fires 30-06 at approximately 200 to 600 rounds per minute. Now, you might be thinking, wow, that's a really crazy range for your rate of fire. This LMG actually has an adjustable fire rate, so you can fire it slowly at approximately 200 rounds per minute, or you can ramp it right up to 600 rounds per minute. As for the Johnson in CoD World War II, we get a damage profile of 30, 29, 22, and this means it's always going to be a 4 to 5 shot kill. Like we've seen in the past with some of the other weapons in the game, that 29 damage range only impacts hardcore game modes. It has no effect on core game modes whatsoever. Our rate of fire is exaggerated a little bit from the real-life LMG at 800 rounds per minute, and with rapid fire that bumps up to 851 rounds per minute. Our statistical minimum time to kill is 225 milliseconds up close and 300 milliseconds within the 5-shot kill range. That 225 millisecond time to kill is actually one of the fastest in the rifle category for the full autos at least. It's just behind the BAR, and keep in mind, it has a significantly longer range than the BAR. So beyond the BAR's 3-shot kill potential, which is relatively short, this thing actually comes out on top when it comes to time to kill for the full auto rifles. As for headshots, no surprises here. Our standard headshot multiplier is 1.1, meaning our headshot damage profile is going to be 33, 31, 24, and this essentially means headshots don't really matter with this gun. That is until you pop on the high caliber attachment. With high caliber, we get a 1.5 times multiplier to the head, and this gives us a headshot damage profile of 45, 43, 33, and this means landing just one headshot mixed in with your body shots will always reduce the number of shots it takes to kill by 1. Moving on to the ranges for the Johnson, as you can see here, our 4-shot kill range extends all the way out to 50 meters. This is an extremely long range, and the vast majority of your gunfights are going to be well within this 4-shot kill range, especially considering the fact that this thing has some strange recoil, so beyond that range, it's not like you're going to be able to hit your shots effectively anyways. So essentially what I'm saying is this gun is always going to be a 4-shot kill within its effective range. I should still point out that with advanced rifling, this range actually doubles and it takes your 4-shot kill range out to 100 meters, but like I was saying, beyond 50 meters, this gun isn't effective anyways, so I would never recommend running advanced rifling on this weapon for core game modes. As for hardcore though, like I said earlier, we have that 29 damage range, which allows them to drop off the 1-shot kill potential basically wherever they want between 0 and 50 meters, and they decided to drop that off at 25 meters. Beyond 25 meters, it's always going to be a 2-shot kill, and with advanced rifling, we can double that range and take it back up to 50 meters, and in this scenario, in hardcore game modes, advanced rifling may be a good option for you, so it's going to basically always be a 1-shot kill, rather than just a 1-shot within 25 meters. Moving on to idle sway, this is where things get a little bit weird. Even though this gun isn't really designed to excel at super long ranges because of the recoil, which we'll look at in a little bit here, this gun has basically 0 idle sway. I can't see the sights moving at all. It's one of the few guns in the game that has this characteristic, but as you can see when you're aiming down sight, it simply doesn't move. As for recoil, the recoil on this weapon is quite strange. It's not like it has really extreme recoil where it kicks up to the sky or anything, but it does have relatively strong and unpredictable horizontal recoil, which is the worst kind of recoil to be dealing with. So if you're just looking at the recoil plot in general, it looks like your bullets are all staying relatively contained, and that sounds like a great thing, but in reality, this is one of the more difficult weapons in the game to predict and control your recoil with. As a result, this gun absolutely doesn't excel at those longer ranges. As for hipfire, the Johnson has the best hipfire in the rifle category. This thing is like practically an SMG sometimes, and I often find myself hipfiring against SMGs in close quarter situations and still coming out on top. Getting into magazine capacity, this is where the Johnson starts to fall down. The standard magazine capacity is only 25 rounds with 75 in reserve, and normally 25 rounds isn't so bad, but when you consider the high fire rate of this weapon, you burn through these magazines very, very quickly. As a result, I highly recommend running extended mags, which will take it up to 37 rounds in a magazine with 111 in reserve. As for a reload add time, which is the amount of time it takes to reload without the unnecessary animation at the end, this is actually pretty slow for the rifle category. It's tied with the FG42, at 1.8 seconds. This is another one of the issues with this weapon. It burns through magazines very quickly and it has a slow reload time, and therefore Hustle is often a good choice for a basic training skill with the Johnson. Getting into some handling and mobility stats, the aim down sight time with the Johnson is 250 milliseconds, which is standard for the rifle category, and our sprint out time is also standard at 250 milliseconds. Same thing goes with our movement speed and our strafe speed. Very standard for the rifle category, nothing out of the ordinary. It's got a 95% standard movement speed with a 40% movement speed when you're strafing and aiming down sight. So overall, my thoughts on the M1941 Johnson in this game, I think it's a great rifle and it's a little bit underrated. I don't run into this too often. I don't see people using it often, and I feel like it's that great bridge between the SMG and the rifle category. It competes quite well with SMGs up close, but it also stretches the ranges well beyond where the SMGs are viable, and I'm actually quite surprised that I don't see it more often in public matches. It's one of those guns where if you guys haven't really given it an honest go yet, make sure you do, because you might fall in love with this weapon. The one big downside to it, however, is the fact that it has that unpredictable recoil, and I really think this is the only reason we aren't seeing this used in competitive currently, is just due to that unpredictable recoil, which makes it sort of an inconsistent weapon. Sometimes it just stays on target and it just melts people. Other times though, it kicks to the side and it throws you off target and it causes you to lose a gunfight. And that's something you can't really risk in a high stress competitive situation. So getting into a couple example classes I have for you guys with this. First one here, we're using infantry with quick draw, a reflex sight, because I don't really like the iron sights too much on this weapon. I feel like that's one of the downsides, but a reflex sight and high caliber. This one also gives you hustle. This is why we're not running extended mags. I can just constantly reload really quickly with hustle. And we've got a machine pistol secondary as well as a sticky grenade for our lethal. Now this class is really just designed around winning your face-to-face gunfights, and if you manage to land that headshot, you can kill people ridiculously fast with this gun. Literally just 2 shots to the body, 1 shot to the head. This thing will be killing much faster than the SMGs, even at really close ranges. And this is an excellent class for just winning those face-to-face gunfights. Next up is a class that I actually prefer using with this weapon. This is once again using the infantry division, but with this one, once again, we've got that reflex sight, we've got extended mags, and we have steady aim. Steady aim on this gun makes it just a hipfire god. You don't need to aim down sight in those close quarter situations with steady aim, and you'll just be melting everything in your path up close. Extended mags makes it so I don't have to reload quite as often, and yes, I'm still using a reflex sight, even though this is designed around hip firing up close. If I ever get to those mid-range situations, I like having that reflex sight available, and for our basic training this time, we're using Hunker. So this is more of an objective-oriented class. Get up close and personal on the objective. You can take a nade or two and survive while still battling it out and winning your gunfights. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's gun guide. As always, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of this gun, as well as your preferred attachment and setup for the M1941 Johnson. And also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. You can check it out. I've covered all of the SMGs, a couple of the rifles, an LMG, and even a shotgun. Which brings me to my next question: what do you guys want to see next in this series? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.